Hello everyone, it's H.A.K again. Well, in a matter of days practically, we are very close to witness the end of the horrid franchise known as Twilight. Give you a moment of silence to cheer. Okay, that's enough. So, similar to what Doug Walker does when he does his bum reviews, I would like to use this video to tell you what's my thought about all the movies that go before Breaking Dawn Part 2. And since it's probably logically wiser not to do this on my actual review for it, unlike what Doug Walker does, considering that you guys want me to just tell you what I think about Breaking Dawn Part 2 pretty much straight away when I make my video review for that, I decided to make this video so that you will be aware of how I feel about all the other films before we get to the final movie. Okay, so the first movie, Twilight. Firstly, I read the books before I saw the movies, like, at all. So, pretty much bear that in mind when I give my point of view about these films. So anyway, the first movie, Twilight. It's bad, but at the same time, it's kind of an for people who have read the book. I say that in the sense that, yes, it's terrible. I mean, Robert Pattinson and Kristen Stewart go without saying. Granted, in my opinion, there was a little bit of emotion for both of them, but on a whole, this movie was pretty much just the beginning of how they became the Kristen Stewart and Robert Pattinson that we know today. But at the end of the day, it's really just the supporting cast in any way, shape, or form that has any actual actors in a sense. I mean, sometimes if you look at everyone else who's not Bella, Edward, or Jacob, you can see that the other people have actual emotions or actual character movement, if you will. Not exactly Oscar-worthy, but, you know, better than Stewart and Patterson. And the effects for the vampires were just stupid. I mean, if you read the book, they basically describe it like the vampires are like Neo when he does his Superman thing fast. And yet, they're kind of like, they're not even acting like they're being held on by strings or something like that. They're just standing there in like super slow motion, if you will. I mean, when you read the books, they make it seem like these vampires are like super fast, like Sonic the Hedgehog fast. And yet, when it comes to these films, well, this one in particular, you can tell that they're not really trying to make them feel like they're really fast. Just, well, I guess the better way is to say that the effects are not that believable in any way, shape, or form. They seem to be kind of when it comes to the baseball scene, but after that, it's just silly. It's half done. Well, maybe less than that. And it's also less than half done when it comes to the sparkling. I mean, I know, that's a terrible thing. That was a very, very stupid thing that they could have come up with. But even I consider that a bad thing. I mean, the way that Stephanie Meyer describes the sparkling, you know, the sparkling should be blinding Belle or something like that. And here with this film, and the other films that follow, they make it feel like it's more like sand than actual diamonds in the skin, if you think about it. And just the all-around pace and the way they act is just very, very slow and very, very boring. Really, the only thing that's considered good is that it's fairly, and that's the key word here, fairly loyal to the book. Or at least in the sense that even with the terrible acting and the less than half weird effects, they're still giving us a story and at least a kind of general idea about the world of Twilight. So, altogether, it's not that grand, and the music is very dull and too quiet, I think is the right way to put it. I mean, personally, I liked Edward's piano piece. I thought that was kind of nice, but when it comes to the whole score in general, it was just so slow and quiet and dull and boring, and it just didn't help at all. So really, this film only worked in terms of being loyal to the book in a way, shape, or form, at least in terms of giving us a general outline about the story of Twilight, while otherwise just being a terrible movie just the way we know it. So, altogether, I gave it a 35% out of 100 when I reviewed that film. Okay, so New Moon. All around both the film and the book are pretty stupid. The worst in the series, bar none. It's kind of a story that needs to happen as far as introducing Jacob and all that, but it's not that great. It's very dull. I think in a way the story of New Moon is kind of proof that at least with Edward around, it's bearable, and without Edward, you just get it's boring than ever. And Jacob, he's just a bad character. He's there just to take off his shirt, and if the book didn't point that out, the film sure as frick did. And I think the music is worse. I mean that in the sense that, particularly when it comes to the scenes where Bella's just standing there moping about Edward being gone, and then her having her dreams and all that. Somehow the music is not just dull and boring, but just off. I think it doesn't work, I think is the way to put it. You know, we're just putting these quiet songs from artists that no one has heard of, and it just kind of makes it worse. It's off, and it just makes it even more dull and boring, and just makes you want to fall asleep. I mean, I have actually had that happen. Like, one of the times that I saw New Moon, I just couldn't keep my eyes open. I just had to just get that far with New Moon. My eyes get heavy, and from there I was like, frick it, I'm turning this off and I'm hitting the hay. This ain't worth it. This is not happening. I'm not watching this movie completely with this kind of music. Now, the graphics are slightly better. I mean, the werewolf effects were nice. They weren't spectacular, but they did their job, I think is the right way to put it. They did what they were supposed to do. And as for the effects for the vampires, they were better. They were still dull and not quite believable to the way that the books describe it, but it was better, at least more bearable than what Twilight brought. And I think this film is where the acting really, really gets noticeable in terms of how much it sucks when it comes to Stewart and Patterson. I mean, Stewart, she's more expressionless than she ever could have been in Twilight, or maybe the other films after New Moon. But when it comes to the acting, I feel particularly sad for Patterson, considering how he begins to be worse. I mean, this basically started when I went to the midnight showing for this movie, because in the beginning, I feel like he was almost there, like he was starting to actually be Edward the way I, along with my best friend, envision him when it comes to reading the books. The way he's supposed to be, just, you know, standing there, of course, but also having chuckles and have smiles for whatever remark Bella makes, and also being so focused and knowing that he's half paying attention to other things along with reading other people's minds and stuff like that. That is the word I envision when I read the book, along with my best friend. And for a while, when it comes to the beginning of the film, I felt like he was actually there. He was almost, if not completely, the way I envision Edward to be in terms of, well, actually bringing the character to life. But as soon as the birthday party starts, he was worse than ever. I mean, when he leaves Bella, his eyes are half closed, maybe more than half closed in a way. It was just being more dull and boring and expressionless and looked tired as frick the entire time. It was depressing. I mean, Edward may not be a great character to begin with, but I felt like there was a chance of dignity in a sense of actually bringing a character to life in this sense for the sake of Patterson's acting and trying to show Twilight a little more, well, give Twilight a little better credit than the way it started. But no, he became worse than ever, same with Stewart's, and yeah, this was pretty much the film where their reputation started just being expressionless as frick. So altogether, when I reviewed that film, I didn't hesitate in the slightest to give it a 10% out of 100, hands down.